Inside America's largest jail, a hidden empire thrives, built on coded messages, ruthless alliances, and power so deep it rivals the streets of Chicago itself. What you're about to see has never been shown like this before. The secret gang hierarchy running Cook County Jail from the shadows. Before we enter this world, hit subscribe and turn on all notifications. This isn't just a story, it's a journey into a place where every hallway has a king, every cell has a purpose, and survival is the only currency. Let's begin. Cook County Jail isn't just a correctional facility, it's a city behind walls. A massive, sprawling complex covering 96 acres on Chicago's southwest side. At any given moment, more than 5,000 to 6,000 detainees are housed here, making it the largest single-site jail facility in the United States. But what makes it legendary isn't the size. It's the ecosystem. To understand why Cook County Jail became the epicenter of gang influence in America, you first need to understand its architecture, physical and social. The jail is divided into 10 divisions, each with its own culture, rhythm, and unwritten rules. These divisions were supposedly built to separate men based on risk, charges, and behavior. But in practice they became territories, controlled by factions that existed long before the detainees ever arrived. By the early 1990s, gang influence inside Cook County Jail wasn't a rumor, it was a documented fact. The Gangsterdisciples, Black Disciples, Vicelords, Latinkings, and several other groups operated with astonishing organization. Many detainees were awaiting trial, not yet convicted, but already connected to the same networks shaping Chicago's streets. Inside these walls, alliances were tested, ranks were solidified, and futures were forged, sometimes in seconds, sometimes over years. In 2014, the Department of Justice released an alarming report describing Cook County Jail as dangerously understaffed and plagued by violence, so pervasive it bordered on routine. Investigators noted that gang members often controlled entire tiers, enforcing their own rules that weren't officially sanctioned but were unquestionably obeyed. Detainees described having to check in with gang leadership the moment they arrived in a division. Some were ordered to clean the tier. Others were assigned shifts on lookout duty. And some were immediately forced into conflict as soon as a rival entered the block. But this shadow government didn't rise overnight. Its roots stretched back to the 1970s and 80s, when Chicago's street organizations were at the height of their structure. Leaders like Larry Hoover of the Gangsterdisciples exercised enormous influence from behind bars. Though Hoover himself was not housed at Cook County Jail during this era, many of his lieutenants were, and they carried out structured orders with military-like discipline. The jail became a strategic hub, a place where messages were passed, disputes were settled, and organizational power was reinforced. Contrary to Hollywood portrayals, jail dominance isn't always measured in brute force. Inside Cook County, true power lies in coordination. Control of contraband. Influence over who gets a phone, who gets a bed, who gets protection. Even the commissary economy becomes a battlefield. And because many detainees cycle in and out quickly due to the nature of short-term holding facilities, information flows constantly. Every week brings new intel from the street. Every new arrival brings updates on territory shifts, alliances, betrayals, and upcoming trials. This made Cook County Jail more than a detention center. It became an intelligence hub for the gang world. One former detainee, interviewed by the Chicago Tribune, described it bluntly. If you want to know what's really happening in Chicago's gang world, you don't go to the neighborhoods, you go to Division 11. Violence inside the jail was not always random. Much of it followed strict internal logic. A detainee with unresolved street business might be targeted the moment his name showed up on a roster. Someone who violated gang rules outside could have his punishment delivered inside. Even something as simple as refusing to join a gang security check, a routine questioning to determine your affiliations, could result in immediate retaliation. Guards, overwhelmed by sheer numbers, often became observers rather than enforcers. The jail's layout, with long tiers and limited sight lines, gave gang groups opportunities to control entire sections with minimal interference. In certain eras, correctional officers privately acknowledged that they depended on gang leaders to maintain order, an arrangement never publicly sanctioned but widely understood. All of this created a paradox. Cook County Jail was simultaneously one of the most surveilled environments in America, and one of the most secretly self-governed. By the 2000s, this system was so entrenched that federal investigators labeled parts of the jail a gang-ruled micro-society. But this wasn't just about violence. It was about information, coded messages passed through vents, folded notes slid under doors, and phone calls made using cleverly disguised terminology. Inside these walls, language itself became a weapon. And the most extraordinary part? Nearly everything operated without the public ever seeing it. Until now. To understand the power structure inside Cook County Jail, you have to forget everything you think you know about jailhouse politics. This isn't a place where random chaos rules, quite the opposite. Inside these walls, hierarchy is precise. Roles are clearly defined. Orders flow top-down. And every major gang faction maintains its own internal government, often mirroring the structure that exists on Chicago's streets. But inside Cook County Jail, these structures take on an entirely new level of sophistication. The shot callers, the unseen kings of the tiers. At the top of the hierarchy sit the shot callers, men who've earned status through years of loyalty, discipline, and demonstration of power. These individuals often have long-standing reputations from the streets, but inside the jail, respect is measured differently. It's not street fame that matters, it's consistency, strategy, the ability to coordinate without detection. Shot callers rarely raise their voice or their fists. They don't need to. Their authority is absolute because it is recognized, not forced. Many have been locked up for years awaiting trial or transfer, and in that time, they've accumulated influence that extends far beyond the tier. An ex-detainee once described a shot caller in Division 9. He barely talked, but everybody listened. You could feel his word move the room. These leaders oversee everything: who sleeps where, who eats first, who gets placed on ice for violating rules, and who gets protected. But their most important responsibility is maintaining order between gangs. Cook County Jail has seen countless violent eruptions over the decades, but when shot callers agree on a truce, the entire tier follows it like law. The lieutenants, enforcers, interpreters, and intelligence officers. Below the shot callers are the lieutenants, sometimes called generals, or ministers depending on the gang. These are the enforcers, men responsible for delivering messages, carrying out punishments, and verifying the loyalty of newer members. In Division 11, several former detainees describe lieutenants as the real operators. They maintain the rotation of duties, enforce curfews, and check any behavior that threatens the gang's credibility. They are also gatekeepers for communication, filtering what information reaches the shot caller. The lieutenants are also the jail's intelligence officers. They monitor how new detainees behave, who they talk to, what affiliations they claim, and whether their story matches what's known on the street. If something doesn't align, the consequences can be swift. The workers, the invisible workforce of control. This is the tier of members that keeps the machine running. They have designated jobs: lookout, cleaners, cell runners, food handlers, phone monitors. Some tasks look harmless: sweeping floors, passing meal trays, handing out blankets. But inside Cook County Jail, these jobs are strategic positions. Anyone handling food controls who eats first, or who doesn't eat at all. Anyone managing the phones controls communication with the outside world. And lookouts are the early warning system, alerting the tier whenever guards are approaching. Workers also reinforce gang rules. They report minor infractions, monitor rival behavior, and make sure the gang's influence remains unchallenged. The new arrivals, the great sorting process. Every new detainee undergoes a check-in upon entering a tier. Not the kind run by staff, this one is far more influential. The check-in involves identifying gang affiliation, confirming neighborhood origin, verifying connections, reviewing any known disputes, assessing loyalty or risk. Failure to answer honestly isn't just a violation, it's a provocation. Because in the closed world of the jail, lies can endanger the entire tier. If someone claims neutrality but is later discovered to have hidden affiliations, the betrayal can spark immediate conflict. One former detainee called the check-in a passport inspection for survival. You pass it and you live according to the tier's rules. You fail, and the tier decides whether you stay, leave, or get punished. The silent majority, non-gang detainees. Despite the immense power of gang factions, the majority of detainees are not gang members. Many are simply trying to survive until court dates, bonds, or releases. But in an environment where gang politics dominate daily life, neutrality doesn't shield you from the ecosystem. Non-gang detainees are often pressured to choose sides for protection. Some stay neutral by paying rent, commissary items exchanged for safety. Others negotiate their own survival strategies, staying quiet, keeping to themselves, or aligning loosely with a less aggressive group. The jail structure forces them into the system whether they want it or not. Even the smallest actions, sitting at a certain table, using a specific phone, standing in the wrong corner, can be interpreted as a challenge or affiliation. The jail's paradox: order through illicit structure. What makes Cook County Jail unique is the paradox that emerges. Gang hierarchy occasionally brings order. When shot callers instruct their members to maintain peace, violence drops. When they demand unity inside a tier, tensions cool. It is an uncomfortable truth repeatedly acknowledged by former guards and detainees alike. In fact, several corrections officers interviewed in investigative reports admitted, off the record, that without the gang hierarchy, the place would explode daily. It's a system born from necessity, sustained by power, and enforced by fear. But as federal investigations would later reveal, this hierarchy doesn't just manage daily life. It manages the flow of contraband, the delivery of messages to the outside, and the coordination of street-level operations. Inside America's largest jail, the gang structure wasn't just surviving. It was evolving. Inside Cook County Jail, words are dangerous. A single sentence overheard by the wrong person can ignite a conflict that burns across an entire division. A careless conversation on a recorded phone line can trigger an investigation on the outside. And a name spoken too loudly can mark someone for retaliation before nightfall. To survive, and to maintain power, gang factions perfected a hidden communication system. A network built on cryptic signals, coded language, and messages transmitted through methods so subtle, many officers didn't detect them for years. This underground information highway became the backbone of the jail's shadow empire. Coded language, the oldest rule in the book. Phone calls inside Cook County Jail are recorded, monitored, flagged for keywords. Detainees know this. In fact, from the moment they're processed, they're reminded. But that never stopped communication with the outside world, it only sharpened their creativity. Every major gang has its own coded vocabulary, a dictionary of terms that appear harmless to outsiders. Food can mean drugs. Books can mean guns. Birthday party might refer to a planned retaliation on the street. Even the word homework has been used to describe criminal instructions. In some documented cases, entire operations were orchestrated using nothing more than metaphor. Federal investigators noted in multiple indictments that gang members used innocent-sounding phrases to mask orders. One conversation captured by prosecutors revealed a detainee referring to a package for grandma, which later turned out to be a shipment of narcotics routed to a stash house miles away. The brilliance of this system is its flexibility. Terms change constantly. Once authorities decode a phrase, the vocabulary is rewritten overnight. What meant one thing last month means something entirely different today. Paper slips, the kites that glide through walls. One of the most common forms of communication is the kite, a small, folded note sent through vents, cracks under cell doors, food trays, laundry bags, even the hands of trusted workers. A kite can be as short as a few words or as detailed as a full-page manifesto. They carry instructions, warnings, schedules, even codes of conduct. The notes move so quickly and quietly that some detainees describe them as flying. One whispered request, one tapped signal, and a kite starts its journey. By the time staff discovers one, dozens more have already traveled across divisions. In 2018, a guard testified in a disciplinary hearing that kites move faster than officers, an admission that highlights the efficiency of the network. The vent network, conversations through metal. In older divisions of Cook County Jail, vents connect cell to cell, and tier to tier. Detainees discovered decades ago that voices travel remarkably well through these ducts. By cupping their hands, whispering at certain angles, and tapping signals, individuals could hold conversations with people they'd never met face to face. This vent talk wasn't just casual communication, it functioned like a jailhouse telephone system. Through it, detainees confirmed allegiances, issued warnings about incoming transfers, sent updates about rivals, coordinated tier responses to guard movements, relayed news from the outside. During several investigations into gang activity within the jail, authorities expressed frustration that information seemed to appear instantly, as if detainees shared a collective consciousness. In reality, messages were bouncing through steel tunnels faster than staff could track. The whisper economy, buying and selling information. Information inside Cook County Jail is currency. Not metaphorically, literally. Detainees trade intel for commissary items, protection, favors, placement in better cells, access to phones, reduced scrutiny from rival factions. Someone who knows the arrival time of a high-profile detainee can trade that information before the person even reaches the division. Someone who overhears a staff rotation change can leverage that detail to shift operations. A former detainee said in a 2016 interview, "In Cook County, information is worth more than cigarettes. It's worth your life." Even guards have unintentionally contributed to the economy. A careless comment in a hallway, an overheard conversation, an offhand remark about a shift change. These small slips can cascade into major consequences on the tier. The communication web that reaches the streets. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of Cook County's message network is how far it extends. Orders given inside the jail have been documented reaching neighborhoods on Chicago's south and west sides, narcotics distributors, gun suppliers, rival gang sets, even suburban affiliates. During Operation Guard Shack and similar investigations, federal authorities confirmed that multiple gang-related shootings on Chicago streets were coordinated through calls and messages originating in Cook County Jail. This dynamic flips the expected power structure. Instead of the jail being an endpoint, where operations halt, it becomes a command center. A headquarters disguised as confinement. Silent signals, communication without words. When verbal and written communication becomes risky, detainees rely on nonverbal signals. Hand gestures through windows. Towel placements on bars. Specific knock patterns. Arranged walking routes during dayroom time. Commissary items left in coded positions. Each signal means something. A folded towel might represent a request for negotiation. A specific knock rhythm might signal danger. Even the way someone stands during roll call can communicate affiliation or defiance. These microsignals are nearly invisible to untrained staff, but unmistakable to those who live by them. A completely parallel communication system. By the 2010s, investigators described the communication network inside Cook County Jail as a parallel infrastructure, operating alongside official channels, but faster, more adaptive, and impossible to fully dismantle. This system wasn't built out of convenience. It was built out of necessity. In an environment where silence can protect you, and the wrong word can erase you, communication had to evolve. And in Cook County Jail, it evolved beyond anything the outside world could imagine. In a jail the size of Cook County, money doesn't move through banknotes. It moves through contraband. Tiny objects, everyday items, forbidden luxuries, things that mean nothing on the outside but become priceless behind bars. Inside this enormous urban fortress, contraband is more than a product. It's a power source, a political tool, a weapon of influence. And gangs who control it control the jail. Contraband is the bloodstream of Cook County Jail's hidden empire. But what makes it extraordinary isn't the supply, it's the ingenuity behind how it gets inside. The supply lines, how contraband enters America's largest jail. The most common entry points aren't the dramatic Hollywood portrayals of drones dropping packages or corrupt guards smuggling drugs in their boots, though those have happened. The real story is far more ordinary and far more effective. 1. The intake pipeline. Every day dozens, sometimes hundreds, of new detainees enter Cook County Jail through intake. Some are arrested with items hidden on them. Some swallow packages before arriving. Others hide small objects in their hair, clothing seams, or body cavities. Intake staff catch many of these attempts, but not all. A former intake officer once admitted anonymously, "You miss one out of every 20, but that one can supply a whole tier." 2. The laundry system. Laundry bags travel across divisions and between buildings. An item tucked inside a towel or stuffed inside a sock can move undetected through multiple shifts of workers. It's one of the oldest, simplest smuggling routes, and still one of the most effective. 3. Commissary manipulation. While commissary items themselves are legal, detainees often use them to mask or transport illegal items. A bar of soap can be hollowed out. A bag of chips can conceal packets. Even the wrappers become tools of the trade. 4. Staff corruption. The rarest method, but the most devastating, is the involvement of corrupt officers. In 2017, a Cook County correctional officer was arrested and charged with supplying drugs to detainees in exchange for cash. Though these incidents are not common, when they occur, they reshape the power structure of entire divisions. Each method feeds the internal economy. And in Cook County Jail, that economy is booming. The categories of contraband. What really holds power? Contraband isn't just drugs. It's almost anything that grants power or leverage. Each category plays a role in the jail's ecosystem. 1. Narcotics. Heroin, pills, synthetic cannabinoids. These are the most valuable products in the jail. Not because everyone uses them, but because they create dependency, which creates loyalty. A gang with a steady narcotic supply recruits easily and enforces authority with little resistance. 2. Tobacco. Since smoking was banned in the jail, cigarettes became luxury items worth more than some inmates' entire commissary accounts. A single cigarette can be broken into 6 or 7 pieces, each piece traded for favors or information. 3. Phones. Smuggled cell phones are the holy grail of contraband. They allow uncensored communication with the outside, coordination with street operations, and the ability to monitor rival movements. Nearly every major federal indictment involving Cook County Jail includes references to smuggled phones. 4. Weapons. Improvised blades, sharpened toothbrushes, metal pieces from broken fixtures. These shanks determine who holds physical dominance in a tier. While rare due to frequent searches, even a single weapon can shift an entire division's balance of power. 5. Everyday objects turn strategic tools. Items like extra clothing, blankets, hygiene packets, and food can be leveraged for influence. A detainee who controls access to small comforts becomes indispensable. The contraband market, how it really works. Unlike street markets, the jail's economy has no cash. Everything is traded through commissary credits, protection, information, favors, and sometimes violence. The jail's gangs act as economic regulators. Prices fluctuate based on supply, searches, and crackdowns. Tobacco prices rise after surprise shakedowns. Narcotics prices double when intake slows. Everything is fluid. One former detainee said, "It's like Wall Street, but with ramen. Because ramen noodles, candy bars, and instant coffee aren't just snacks, they are currency. A single pack of noodles might buy phone access. 2 might get you protection for a day. A full bag? That buys silence." The power of distribution networks. Possessing contraband gives power, but controlling its flow creates empire. Gangs maintain distribution chains inside the jail just as sophisticated as those on the outside. One member controls supply. Another handles packaging. Lieutenants distribute to lower levels. Workers enforce debts. Shot callers take the share that keeps the structure moving. It is an economic machine that functions even under extreme surveillance, because surveillance can't stop demand. Debt. The darkest part of the trade. Debts inside Cook County Jail are not financial, they're physical. A detainee who can't repay a debt may lose phone privileges, may be barred from the day room, may be forced to clean the tier, may face violence, or may be rolled out, meaning they are forcibly removed from the tier by their peers. The jail categorizes many fights as inmate disagreements, but those familiar with the system know most conflicts trace back to unpaid debts inside the contraband economy. The jail's eternal struggle. Staff continuously try to intercept contraband. Random tier shakedowns, cell-by-cell searches, body scanners, surveillance cameras, drug-sniffing dogs. Yet the contraband economy never disappears. It adapts. It shifts. It evolves faster than enforcement. A correctional administrator once summarized the dilemma. You're trying to stop a river with a broom. And as long as contraband remains the jail's true currency, the gangs who control it will always hold the real power. Cook County Jail is often described as chaotic from the outside, loud, unpredictable, violent. But those who live inside know the truth. Every move, every gesture, every conversation happens within a system of unwritten laws. A political world exists behind the bars, one that mirrors Chicago's streets yet operates with its own rules, forged from necessity, enforced by fear, and sustained by tradition. In this underground government, gang leaders negotiate peace, manage territory, and forge alliances that can last years, or break in an instant. Inside these walls, survival isn't just about strength. It's about understanding the politics that define daily life. The unofficial constitution, laws no one writes but everyone follows. Every division of Cook County Jail operates on rules that were never formally written down, yet they're universally enforced. These rules keep the tiers from erupting into constant warfare. They also reinforce who holds power. Some of the most widely respected unwritten laws include: do not sit on another gang's bench. Benches in the day room act as territory markers. Do not use another gang's phone. In Cook County, phones are not public, they're controlled assets. Do not take someone else's food tray. Even accidental violations can escalate into major conflicts. Respect neutrons. A neutron is someone with no gang affiliation. Though vulnerable, harming one without cause can break fragile peace agreements. Do not bring outside beef inside. Street conflicts are expected to remain outside unless gang leadership declares otherwise. These rules create a fragile order. Break one, and you're breaking the tier's social contract. A former detainee explained. It's like prison law. There's no book, but you learn fast or you get taught the hard way. The politics of territory, divisions as kingdoms. Each division inside Cook County Jail has its own identity and its own political landscape. Division 6, historically known for housing lower-risk detainees but still deeply influenced by gang presence. Division 9, Supermax, where the most serious offenders are held. Politics here are quiet, rigid, and unforgiving. Division 11, often described as the jail's melting pot, where shifting alliances and rivalries keep tension constantly simmering. Division 10, medical/psychiatric. Even here, politics influence how detainees move and interact. Territory isn't about space, it's about influence. A gang doesn't need to occupy a whole division to hold power there. Controlling a few key cells, a phone, or even the entrance to a day room can be enough. The peace table, negotiations behind the bars. When tension rises, gang leaders meet informally to negotiate peace. These meetings happen in holding rooms, during court transports, or even through vent-to-vent communication. The goal isn't friendship, it's stability. Peace talks usually revolve around disputes over debts, disrespectful behavior, phone access conflicts, misunderstandings during intake, external street disputes spilling inside. Most truce negotiations follow a simple principle. Violence draws attention. Attention brings shakedowns. Shakedowns disrupt business. Keeping peace is good for operations. Multiple detainees across decades have described these peace talks as surprisingly diplomatic. Leaders speak calmly. They weigh evidence. They consider long-term consequences. One former detainee recalled witnessing a truce negotiation in Division 11. They talked like CEOs. You'd never think they were in jail the way they handled the problem. But diplomacy has limits. When talks fail, the entire division can shift into a state of alert. Unexpected alliances. When enemies become partners. On the streets of Chicago, gang wars can span generations. But inside Cook County Jail, survival sometimes forces alliances that would be unthinkable outside. A few common reasons rivals temporarily unite. A stronger rival threatens them both. A truce benefits both their operations. A corrupt officer's behavior disrupts everyone's tier. An external investigation puts heat on all groups. Inside, rivals often sit closer, talk more often, and rely on each other for stability than anyone outside could believe. A former detainee described an alliance between two notorious rival gangs in the early 2000s. They didn't break bread on the streets, but in the tier they were like cousins. Jail politics is different from street politics. The fragility of peace, how fast things fall apart. Peace inside Cook County Jail is always temporary. One misunderstanding, one rumor, one fight in the shower can shatter weeks of diplomacy. Some of the most common triggers include a new detainee with unresolved street conflicts, a lieutenant overstepping authority, stolen commissary, disrespect during dayroom hours, outside news about shootings or tensions involving affiliated members. The moment peace fractures, everything changes. Lookouts double their vigilance. Workers begin repositioning. Leaders prepare for retaliation or negotiation. Rumors spread through vents before a single punch is thrown. Everyone senses the shift. The code of survival, what every detainee learns. Surviving the politics of Cook County Jail requires understanding the balance between respect and invisibility. Don't speak unless spoken to. Mind your space. Know who controls what. Avoid gossip, it kills faster than weapons. Keep debts small or non-existent. Never involve yourself in a dispute you don't understand. Veterans of the system say it takes about 72 hours for a new detainee to understand the basics. Any longer and someone begins teaching through force. Politics behind bars. A system built for survival. The politics of Cook County Jail are not about ideals, they're about necessity. Order must exist or everything collapses into chaos. Every gang leader knows this. Every lieutenant reinforces it. Every worker depends on it. And even those who reject gang life must navigate the political currents that shape every day of their confinement. This is why the jail, despite decades of documented violence, doesn't implode. It isn't held together by the administration. It's held together by the prisoners themselves, through a political system few outsiders ever see. And this hidden world continues to evolve. Because behind every peace deal, behind every alliance, behind every unwritten rule, lies something far more dangerous. The power to control the future of the jail. For decades, Cook County Jail has tried to project an image of controlled order, structured movement, consistent routines, and secure housing units. But behind the official reports and press briefings lies a different truth. Every so often, the tension inside America's largest jail reaches a breaking point, and the battles that normally remain invisible explode into view. These outbreaks, riots, coordinated assaults, tear uprisings, are not random. They are expressions of pressure built through politics, overcrowding, contraband disputes, and intergang hostility that has simmered too long. And when they erupt, they reveal the jail's most dangerous reality. The system is always one spark away from collapse. The pressure cooker, how violence builds in silence. In a place where thousands of men live stacked on top of each other, small problems become massive conflicts. A stolen commissary item turns into a fight. A fight becomes a retaliation. A retaliation becomes a full-tier confrontation. Correctional officers often describe Cook County Jail as a pressure cooker. Quiet on the outside, boiling on the inside. The jail's age also contributes to the volatility. Many divisions were built decades ago, long before modern designs that allow for improved visibility and safer supervision. Long, narrow tiers create blind spots. Old steel doors echo loudly, amplifying tension. Crowded dayrooms become arenas where multiple factions move within arm's reach. Every day, the jail relies on an unspoken balance. Prisoner politics on one side, institutional authority on the other. When that balance breaks, the result is explosive. Documented flashpoints. When control slips. Several incidents over the years have pierced the public veil, revealing battles the jail could not hide. The 2006 DOJ report described Cook County as a facility where detainees were regularly involved in violent altercations, noting that the environment was so understaffed and overcrowded that detainees often fended for themselves. This wasn't just a statistic, it was a warning about conditions ripe for revolt. In 2014, a violent brawl involving more than 30 detainees erupted in Division 11. Security footage showed coordinated movement, certain groups targeting specific rivals, others forming defensive circles. It wasn't chaos, it was organized warfare conducted within seconds of opportunity. And in 2017, another large-scale altercation broke out when rival groups were mistakenly placed in proximity during a movement period. The confrontation was explosive, ending with multiple injuries and a renewed examination of jail protocols. These were the visible battles, the ones captured on camera, the ones that made the news. But countless others occur behind closed doors, logged as inmate disturbances or use of force incidents. To those who know the jail's rhythms, these terms barely scratch the surface. How a riot begins, the anatomy of an eruption. Most people imagine a riot as spontaneous, a crowd suddenly turning violent. Inside Cook County Jail, that almost never happens. Riots have patterns, precursors, and catalysts. 1. A breach of the unwritten rules. A new detainee violates phone protocol. A rival gang member sits in the wrong area. Someone refuses to pay a debt. What seems trivial outside becomes a serious offense inside. 2. Word spreads through the vents and whispers. Within minutes, both factions prepare. Lookouts track guard rotations. Workers shift items into place. The tier becomes a chessboard seconds before a storm. 3. A triggering moment. A door opens. A dayroom unlocks. A guard calls for movement. One opportunity is all it takes. For the eruption. Fists, makeshift weapons, and coordinated strikes unfold with astonishing speed. Fights inside Cook County often last less than a minute before staff intervene, but the damage can be permanent. 5. The aftermath. Cells are locked down. Shakedowns follow. Contraband disappears. Leaders reevaluate alliances. Sometimes peace is restored, sometimes the conflict lingers for years. A former detainee described it this way. It's not chaos. It's chess with violence instead of pieces. The role of overcrowding, a spark that never goes out. At times, Cook County Jail has housed nearly double its intended capacity. Overcrowding strains every part of the system. Fewer officers per detainee. Increased tension in dayrooms. Lack of privacy. Longer waits for resources. More frequent misunderstandings. Quicker spread of rumors. When people are confined in tight spaces with competing interests, violence becomes almost inevitable. This overcrowding was one of the main critiques highlighted by the ACLU and DOJ over the years, both citing that the pressure created an environment primed for unrest. Staff response: fighting battles in seconds. Correctional officers inside Cook County Jail work one of the most difficult jobs in America. When a fight breaks out, they often have seconds, not minutes, to respond. Many officers have spoken anonymously about the danger. You don't break up a fight. You survive it. When 20 guys go off at once, all you can do is contain the damage. Some tiers feel like they're waiting for a war that starts every week. Officers use shields, chemical spray, and tactical formations to regain control. But even then, gang leaders sometimes use fights strategically, to distract officers from contraband movements or to test response times. Every battle teaches detainees something, and they adapt. Why violence never truly ends. Even when major riots are prevented, Cook County Jail experiences constant smaller-scale conflicts. The reason is simple: the jail is not just a detention facility. It's a battleground for gang influence, a place where every member's loyalty is tested, and where rivalries sharpen instead of fade. 3 factors guarantee that conflict always returns. 1. Ongoing street wars. News from outside flows inside daily. A shooting in Englewood can spark retaliation inside Division 11 within hours. 2. Leadership changes. When a powerful shot caller is transferred, gaps form, challengers rise, and stability collapses. 3. Contraband disputes. Every economy has conflict, and the jail's black market is built on risk. The cost of control. When Cook County Jail erupts, the consequences ripple in every direction. Detainees are injured. Officers face long-term trauma. Divisions are placed on lockdown. Programs for rehabilitation are suspended. Investigations pour in. Families wait anxiously for news. The true cost isn't measured in broken bones or damaged cells. It's measured in the understanding that control is an illusion, one maintained daily through a fragile balance of power between detainees and the institution. Inside America's largest jail, eruptions aren't anomalies. They are a reminder. There is no such thing as peace, only pauses between battles. To the outside world, correctional officers are the line of authority, the men and women who keep order, stop violence, and ensure the rules of the jail are followed. But inside Cook County Jail, the reality is far more complicated. Guards walk a tightrope between enforcer and negotiator, between authority figure and vulnerable target, between the expectations of the administration and the pressures of a jail population that outnumbers them 10 to 1. Some officers become respected by detainees, known for fairness and consistency. Others become feared. And a few, too few but enough to shift the balance, become corrupted by the same underground economy that rules the tiers. This chapter is not fiction. It is built on documented investigations, whistleblower accounts, indictments, and years of reporting that reveal a truth many institutions would rather keep quiet. In Cook County Jail, survival isn't just something detainees think about. It's something the guards worry about too. The impossible job, outnumbered, outpaced, and under constant pressure. At any given time, one officer might be responsible for supervising 40 to 60 detainees. In some divisions historically, that ratio climbed even higher. And unlike prisons, which house long-term offenders, Cook County Jail cycles through thousands of new detainees every month. That means chaos is always at the door. Everything a guard does is risk calculation. Break up a fight too early and you might get caught in the retaliation. Break it up too late and someone's injured, or worse. Show too much authority and you become a target. Show too little and the tier stops respecting you. A veteran guard once told an investigative reporter, "You don't control this place. You manage it. And sometimes you don't even do that." This is the reality many officers face daily. It's not a matter of power. It's a matter of balance, the same balance detainees must navigate. The art of negotiation, guards as diplomats. Correctional officers don't maintain order through force alone. In truth, the most effective officers inside Cook County Jail are negotiators. They talk to shot callers, gather information from workers, and learn who controls what. Because detainee hierarchy can support, or sabotage, officer authority. Guards quickly learn that peace on a tier often depends on respecting certain invisible lines. Some will even admit that asking gang leaders for cooperation is more effective than issuing orders. It is not collaboration. It is survival. A former officer described it perfectly. If you want lunch to happen without a riot, you better know who's beefing with who that day. The lines officers won't cross, and the ones some do. Most correctional officers work by the book. They take pride in their uniform. They face danger daily and still return the next morning. They are the front line of a complex and volatile environment. But in a jail powered by contraband and information, temptation exists. And Cook County has seen its share of corruption cases, though they represent a small fraction of the workforce. Documented corruption, when guards become part of the shadow economy. In 2017, a Cook County correctional officer was charged with smuggling narcotics into the jail. Investigators alleged that he received cash payments to bring in drugs for detainees connected to gang networks. In earlier cases, officers were accused of smuggling cell phones, bringing in tobacco, tipping off detainees about searches, delivering messages between divisions, interfering with rival gang movements. These cases were exposed through sting operations, recorded phone calls, and undercover investigations. Each one showed how a single compromised guard could shift the jail's balance of power. But the most chilling detail from these reports wasn't the corruption, it was the reason behind it. Officers explained, "I was threatened. I was outnumbered. I needed the money. I didn't think anyone would notice." Corruption wasn't always exploitation. Sometimes it was survival. The thin wall between order and collapse. Guards in Cook County Jail face dangers most civilians never imagine. Weapons hidden in vents. Boiling water used as a weapon. Coordinated assaults. Locked door ambushes. Gang retaliation after disciplinary actions. And while the jail provides training, nothing fully prepares an officer for a place where tensions shift by the minute. When a tear erupts, guards must respond instantly, often without backup nearby. Every entry into a fighting crowd is a gamble. One officer, injured breaking up a large brawl, described the fear. You step into a sea of bodies and for a moment, you don't know who's on your side. You just hope the other officers reach you before the crowd does. Respect versus fear, the two paths of authority. Inside Cook County Jail, detainees sort guards into two categories. Those who enforce the rules fairly. Those who abuse power. The first group earns long-term stability. Detainees may not like them, but they respect them. They cooperate when it matters. They listen when tensions rise. The second group becomes lightning rods for conflict. Their presence alone can spark hostility. When rival gangs unite against someone, it is often a guard they view as abusive or unpredictable. One former detainee put it bluntly. You can't bully hundreds of men who have nothing to lose. The emotional toll, officers behind the walls. The psychological impact on correctional officers is rarely talked about publicly. Yet many suffer. PTSD, hypervigilance, anxiety, depression, chronic sleep issues. In interviews and testimonies, officers describe feeling trapped in a parallel world. One foot in a law enforcement career, one foot in an environment where violence is routine. Some leave the job early. Others stay for decades, becoming institutions within an institution. Two worlds, one battle. Cook County Jail isn't run solely by detainees or solely by staff. It is a joint ecosystem, unspoken cooperation mixed with unspoken tension. Both sides understand. Violence disrupts everything. Corruption rearranges everything. Alliances stabilize everything. Fear controls nothing. Guards must navigate this world with the same caution detainees use to survive. And while their badge gives them authority, it does not give them immunity from the politics of the jail. Inside America's largest jail, power is fluid, loyalty is conditional, and danger is constant, no matter what uniform you wear. Most people imagine Cook County Jail as a sealed environment, an isolated world where detainees wait for trial, cut off from the outside. But the truth is the opposite. The jail is deeply connected to Chicago's legal system, transportation network, and community dynamics. And those connections shape everything inside the walls. Court dates shift alliances. Transfers spark power struggles. Even the tunnels beneath the jail, dark, winding passageways used to move detainees to courtrooms, become battlegrounds where information spreads and rivalries collide. Cook County Jail isn't separate from the outside world. It's a reflection of it, compressed, intensified, and weaponized. The court pipeline, when the outside walks through the inside. Every morning, hundreds of detainees are moved through the jail's secured corridors for their court appearances. It is one of the most hectic parts of the day, a tightly controlled operation that still carries enormous risk. Court movement does something unusual. It forces rival gang members into close proximity. In the jail's normal housing structure, divisions are carefully managed to avoid unnecessary confrontation. But court? Court is a wild card. Detainees from the South Side, the West Side, suburban Cook County, rival factions, even co-defendants turned enemies, find themselves chained together, waiting in holding rooms, sharing benches, passing one another in line. These moments, brief yet uncontrolled, become opportunities for exchanging contraband, passing coded messages, warning allies, intimidating rivals, plotting moves for when they return to the tiers. One former detainee explained. Court day wasn't just about the case. It was about who you saw, who you talked to, and what you learned. That flow of information, names, charges, street news, gang movements, feeds back into the jail and influences everything from peace treaties to future conflicts. The underground network, the tunnels beneath Cook County Jail. Beneath the sprawling jail complex lies a network of tunnels connecting divisions to each other and to the courthouse. These tunnels are dim, cold, and claustrophobic, part concrete arteries, part historical remnants of a jail built almost a century ago. To officers, the tunnels are a transportation necessity. To detainees, they are an information superhighway. In the narrow passageways, rival groups size each other up. Alliances are tested. Coded looks and gestures pass rapidly. Fragments of conversations echo off the walls. Messages travel faster than through any vent system. Because officers focus heavily on movement logistics, detainees learn to speak subtly, gesture discreetly, or even maintain silence that communicates more than words. One correctional officer once described the tunnels as the most honest place in the jail. You see who fears who respects who's planning something. Transfers, the earthquakes that shake the jail's politics. If court days are tremors, transfers are earthquakes. A transfer can mean a shot caller moves divisions. A rival suddenly appears in the same tier. A detainee with debts is relocated. Someone with critical street intel enters a new environment. A former ally becomes a threat due to changing alliances outside. Every new arrival is like a new piece on a chessboard, one that might shift the entire strategy. Older detainees often sense what a transfer means before staff do. They read the new arrival's posture, expression, and body language. They listen to what state-issued uniform the person is wearing. They observe how other detainees react. And in Cook County Jail, reputation walks ahead of the person. A shot caller arriving in a new division can cause the entire tier to reset its politics overnight. A feared enforcer might bring tension lasting weeks. A detainee who's rumored to be cooperating with law enforcement may be challenged, questioned, or attacked within hours. The courtroom effect. How legal battles inflame jail politics. For many detainees, their legal cases directly influence their jail behavior. Stress turns into aggression. Aggression becomes conflict. Conflict becomes violence. Court outcomes can trigger emotional spikes. A denied bond leads to frustration and outbursts. A surprise witness appearing in court can create suspicion or paranoia. Hearing about rival gang members' cases can escalate tensions. A plea deal might make someone appear weak or untrustworthy. Moreover, detainees sometimes learn in court that a rival on the outside was arrested. That news returns to the tier like gasoline poured on a slow-burning fire. Lawyers, families, and external influence. Visits also carry influence. While monitored, visits still allow subtle communication. A detainee may learn who flipped, who's cooperating, who's out on bond, who got arrested last night, who's running territory on the outside. Families, unintentionally or otherwise, become conduits of information. Something as small as a relative mentioning a neighborhood rumor can trigger consequences inside the jail. The court transport chain, where old feuds rekindle. Transport vans and holding cells often group individuals by logistics, not by gang affiliation. This leads to moments where old rivals confront each other. Co-defendants argue or threaten. Alliances form in minutes. Vital information gets exchanged. Some of the jail's most violent altercations have taken place in the areas leading to or from courtrooms. Moments when detainees are out of their tiers, in liminal spaces where guards must prioritize movement over politics. When the outside world decides the inside. Perhaps the most important truth about Cook County Jail is this. The jail is not isolated. It breathes the same air as Chicago's streets. Every shooting, every arrest, every courtroom update ripples inward. The jail reacts instantly. Peace agreements crumble. New alliances form. Contraband prices shift. Leadership structures evolve. This is why Cook County's internal politics never stabilize. They're tethered to a city in constant motion. Inside those walls, detainees live in two worlds at once. One world is built of steel bars. The other is built of everything happening outside them. And sometimes the outside world is more dangerous. To understand Cook County Jail, you must understand one thing. Leadership doesn't end at the door. The moment a gang member enters the jail, his reputation, history, and influence travel with him like a shadow. On the streets of Chicago, power is earned through territory, loyalty, and violence. Inside Cook County Jail, Power is earned differently, but it's no less real. In some ways, it is even stronger. This is the place where street kings become jail generals, where young members become soldiers overnight, and where the leadership structure of entire gangs can evolve in a matter of days. And it often begins with one simple question whispered through the vent system. Who's the big homie on the tier? The myth versus reality of gang leadership behind bars. Pop culture paints gang leaders behind bars as unstoppable masterminds running empires effortlessly. In reality, power inside Cook County Jail is far more fluid, far more contested, and far more dangerous than any TV show suggests. A leader on the streets may enter the jail with fame, but that does not guarantee authority. Inside, respect resets. Those who ruled neighborhoods in Chicago may find themselves outranked by veteran detainees who've held jail power for years. Conversely, some leaders grow more powerful inside than they ever were outside. The jail isn't a retirement center for gang members, it's a proving ground. How true leaders are identified inside Cook County. When a known figure arrives, the tier reacts instantly. Detainees gather information through vent whispers, court movement observations, worker intel, coded questions during intake, old connections from the streets. Within hours, everyone knows the person's gang, their ranking, their reputation, who they've crossed, who their allies are, why they're locked up. This rapid intelligence gathering allows the tier to decide where the newcomer fits into the internal hierarchy. But even with street clout, a leader must demonstrate 3 qualities to hold power inside. 1. Discipline. Temperament matters more than muscle. A reckless leader brings heat, and heat brings lockdowns. 2. Strategic thinking. Leaders who can anticipate guard rotations, manage contraband flow, and keep members unified earn trust. 3. Ability to control violence. A leader who can stop a riot is more respected than one who starts one. The rise of the jail generals. Some of the most influential gang leaders in Chicago's history refined their leadership from behind bars, not by choice but by circumstance. In Cook County Jail, leaders often become mediators, diplomats, disciplinarians, strategists, and, when needed, war generals. They mediate disputes between younger members. They establish tier rules. They negotiate with rival shot callers. They instruct lieutenants on how to manage daily operations. They coordinate communication with the outside world using coded phone calls and trusted intermediaries. One former detainee described watching a gang leader in Division 11 handle a crisis. He calmed the whole tier down with a whisper. Not a yell, not a threat, a whisper. That's when I realized who really had the power. The influence of legendary leaders. Chicago's major gangs, like the Gangsterdisciples, Vicelords, Black P. Stones, Latinkings, and others, have long histories intertwined with incarceration. Even if the highest-ranking leaders were held elsewhere or in federal custody, many of their trusted lieutenants and influential members passed through Cook County Jail. These individuals carried organizational discipline with them. They taught younger members coded communication, chain of command structure, rules of conduct, ideological foundations, conflict resolution protocols. This is why Cook County Jail became more than a holding center. It became a training ground. And as gang culture evolved on the streets over decades, so too did its operations inside the jail. The challenge of new generation gang members. Younger members entering the jail today often come from a different era, one of fractured sets and decentralized leadership on Chicago's streets. Many grew up in an environment where loyalty is thinner, alliances shift quickly, and violence is more spontaneous. This creates tension inside the jail. Older leaders expect discipline. Younger members often bring chaos. Inside Cook County, this generational divide forces leadership to adapt. Some divisions have seen senior members hold impromptu classes, literal lessons on gang history, structure, and expectations, to reteach younger detainees the system they never learned. One former detainee laughed about this phenomenon in an interview. It was like school. Big homies teaching the shorties how not to get everybody killed. When leaders lose power, not every leader maintains control. Some lose influence due to arrogance, inability to manage conflicts, disrespecting the wrong person, violating internal rules, cooperating with authorities, mishandling contraband debts, failing to protect their own people. Power shifts rapidly inside Cook County Jail. A respected leader today can be removed tomorrow, peacefully through demotion or violently through force. And when a leader falls, the tier often descends into chaos until a new hierarchy forms. The leaders who never wanted the job. Surprisingly, many effective leaders never sought leadership. They earned it because they restored peace during unrest, brokered deals during tensions, kept younger members in check, demonstrated consistent fairness, showed restraint during conflicts. Inside Cook County, leadership finds you, whether you want it or not. How leadership shapes the jail's daily life. Everything inside the jail flows downward from leadership. Whether violence erupts or stays contained. How contraband is distributed. How debts are handled. How alliances shift. How members prepare for court. How newcomers are vetted. How rivalries are managed. Guards often rely on these leaders without ever admitting it. A single command from a respected shot caller can stop a fight faster than an entire tactical team. This dual power structure, one official, one not, defines the daily rhythm of Cook County Jail. Leadership behind bars, a double-edged sword. Leaders inside Cook County Jail walk a thin line. They must protect their people. They must avoid unnecessary violence. They must manage pressures from the streets. They must stay under the radar of staff. Too much influence draws investigations. Too little influence invites challenges. Power inside the jail is temporary, fragile, and constantly tested. But one thing is certain. If you control the minds of the tier, you control Cook County Jail. Inside Cook County Jail, survival isn't free. Every privilege, every safe moment, every gesture of respect, every item of comfort, comes at a cost. And that cost is paid through an invisible economy that operates beneath official oversight. This is not an economy of dollars or bank accounts. This is an economy of debt, favors, loyalty, and leverage. A system created out of scarcity and maintained through unwritten rules that are older than many detainees themselves. Inside these walls, everything has value. Everything has a price. And nothing, absolutely nothing, is free. The currency of the tiers, what matters behind the bars. Forget traditional money. In Cook County Jail, the true currencies are ramen bricks, coffee packets, stamps, tuna pouches, socks and thermal tops, soap bars and hygiene products, extra blankets, phone time, protection, information, contraband. Each item becomes part of a delicate financial system where scarcity amplifies value. A single ramen pack, worth less than $1 outside, might be traded for 2 days of tier protection. A coffee packet might buy access to a gang phone for 5 minutes. A small bar of soap might settle a minor conflict before it turns into violence. One former detainee famously said, "Inside Cook County, ramen is gold, coffee is silver, and protection is priceless." How the economy starts. The first debt. Debt begins the moment someone enters the jail. New detainees often arrive with nothing. No commissary, no hygiene items, no warm layers for the cold cells. Veteran detainees know this and they extend what looks like kindness. A bar of soap, a pair of socks, a ramen pack, a share of coffee, access to a phone. But this kindness is not charity. It's a loan. And every loan inside Cook County Jail has interest. A detainee who receives a single ramen pack today might owe double next week. If he doesn't pay, the debt grows. If it grows too large, the consequences shift from economic to physical. The store men, the bankers of Cook County Jail. Some detainees operate what is known as the store, a jailhouse general store run entirely through commissary trading. Store men buy large amounts of commissary and loan items out with steep interest. Typical deal. Borrow 1 ramen pack today. Pay back 2 on commissary day. High interest keeps the store thriving, and store men often align themselves with gang factions for protection. In exchange, the gang benefits from controlling the internal economy. It's a mutually profitable relationship, until debts go unpaid. Then the store men call in their enforcers. The debt collectors, when business turns to violence. Inside Cook County Jail, debt collection isn't handled with paperwork. It's handled with intimidation, peer pressure, forced labor, social isolation, or violence. A detainee who falls behind on debt might be forced to clean the tier daily, denied phone access, blocked from shower time, ordered to move cells, roughed up to remind them, or rolled out of the division entirely. Some former detainees describe a specific protocol. Day 1, a reminder. Day 2, a threat. Day 3, a warning from the shot caller. Day 4, a beating or worse. This is the brutal backbone of the jail economy. Debts must be paid or order collapses. The favor system, the invisible bank of influence. Not all transactions involve items. Many involve favors, intangible debts that can last months or even years. These favors include helping someone avoid a beating, speaking to a shot caller on someone's behalf, covering for someone during a shakedown, passing a message through the tunnel system, defending someone during a fight, giving up phone time for an urgent call, offering information at the right moment. A single favor can shift the power dynamic of an entire tier. But favors are the most dangerous form of currency because they create obligations that don't expire. One detainee explained, "You can pay back ramen. You can't always pay back respect. A favor given today may be called in 6 months later, often at a moment when refusing means consequences that extend far beyond the individual." Protection as a commodity, the darkest transaction. In Cook County Jail, not everyone is capable of defending themselves. Some detainees, especially those facing high-profile charges, sexual offenses, or those who simply appear vulnerable, become targets. Protection becomes a commodity. To receive protection, a detainee might hand over commissary, follow gang rules, run errands, clean cells, pass messages, act as a lookout, or pay weekly rent to remain safe. Rent is one of the jail's most controversial practices. It's illegal, it's unofficial, but it is real. Detainees forced to pay rent must give up a portion of everything they receive, from soap to snacks to winter clothing. If they stop paying, they are rolled off the tier, often violently. The power of scarcity, how shortages shape the jail. Sometimes a simple shortage can change the jail's internal economy. When coffee runs low, phone time trades spike. When commissary is delayed, debts surge. When a shakedown removes contraband, tobacco prices triple. When a cold snap hits, extra blankets become political leverage. The jail economy reacts instantly to scarcity just like a real market, only with higher stakes. The manipulators, those who turn the economy into power. Some of the most influential detainees aren't the strongest or the most respected. They're the ones who understand the economy. They stockpile goods. They manipulate prices. They create dependency. They control flow. In many documented cases, these economic manipulators become almost as powerful as the shot callers themselves, because they control the thing every detainee needs: survival. The real price, what survival costs in Cook County Jail. For a detainee to make it safely through Cook County Jail without joining a gang, taking loans, trading favors, falling into debt, or relying on protection, is almost impossible. The jail economy traps people. Even those who try to stay neutral eventually participate simply to eat, to shower, to stay safe, to communicate with family. This is the true cost of survival. You pay with what you have or you pay with what you are. The economy behind the walls, a mirror of the streets. The hidden economy inside Cook County Jail mirrors Chicago's underground economy outside. Scarcity creates power. Control of goods creates influence. Debts create loyalty. Favors create networks. Violence enforces the rules. The difference? Inside Cook County, everything is amplified. Everyone is trapped in the same environment. And every debt carries consequences that echo through the tiers. This is not just an economy. This is a survival system. A system where the smallest item can save a life. Or end one. Cook County Jail is more than a detention center. It is a world built on power, pressure, and survival. A hidden empire operating in the shadows of America's justice system. Inside its walls, gangs rewrite the rules of leadership. Contraband becomes currency. Silence becomes law. And every day, men navigate a system crafted through fear, loyalty, and unwritten codes that decide whether they walk through each hour alive. From the tunnels beneath the courthouse, to the narrow tiers echoing with whispers, to the secret negotiations that decide peace or war, this jail functions like its own nation, with its own politics, economy, and hierarchy. Most of the world will never see it. Most will never understand it. But those who have lived through it know one truth. Cook County Jail doesn't just hold people. It transforms them, tests them, and it exposes the hidden systems that define life and death in America's most dangerous detention facility. As viewers, we've only touched the surface. The coded messages, the battles for control, the leaders rising behind steel bars, and the silent economy running day and night. If this documentary opened your eyes, if it made you think, if it made you see the justice system differently, then imagine what else lies hidden in the shadows of prisons across America. The story may end here. But the world inside Cook County Jail continues without pause. Power shifts. Alliances change. New detainees enter the empire every day, and the cycle begins again. Because inside those walls, survival never sleeps, and power never disappears. It just changes hands. Thank you for watching. Before you go, make sure to subscribe. We are just getting started. More untold stories. More hidden worlds. More truth the system doesn't want you to see. This is your window into the places most people fear to look. You don't want to miss what comes next.